As we look forward to the beginning of a new year, it gives us an opportunity to reflect on what's come before and to look forward to the opportunities ahead. Now, it's been many months since the murder of George Floyd lit the fuse on the largest civil rights protest in American history. Months of marches, demonstrations, conversations, and intense debate. How did we get here? Where do we go from here? Why can't we bring ourselves to have the hard conversations without distraction or diversion? And at the end of the day, what makes this moment any different? We talk a lot in this country about who we are and who we want to be. We can post online or co-sign at our chosen news networks in the comfort of our own homes, but what are we really doing? We've got strong and active mouths, but where are our feet? Do our actions meet our good intentions? Now, I know that many of us have had a long and challenging year, and that these closing stages have brought a sense of relief to many, as well as an opportunity for renewal. If you found yourself stepping forward to say that Black Lives Matter, how have you expressed that support? What continuing steps are you taking? 2020 was a hell of a year, but it also served as the culmination of a season of conflict. For many years, our darker impulses have been creeping back into the mainstream of American culture, to the point where armed white supremacists killing American citizens can get rolled into a news cycle where it sparks more debate than change. I'm almost glad that my grandfather, who served in Patton's army during the Second World War, wasn't alive to see the ideals legitimized in this country. The fight of his life being revived for his grandchildren to contend with. I don't want that for us. To have our children and grandchildren grappling with the same struggles that we're contending with. We've been faced with big turning points like this before. In 1865, we vanquished the Confederacy at Appomattox. There was cause for celebration, but a lack of follow-through led to the nightmare of Reconstruction that lasted decades. In 1945, the Allies crushed the Nazis, only to be met with the dropping of an iron curtain that cast a shadow on the rest of the century. In 1965, after breaking the back of Jim Crow and securing the vote for African Americans, some thought the work was done, only to be confronted with a new Southern strategy, and the birth of the prison industrial complex kept humming with mass incarceration and heavy-handed sentencing laws. 1865, 1945, 1965. Each of these moments, like today, presents an opportunity. Unlike those times, we can take this time to create a definition of terms. We can not only define who we are, but who we are not and who we will never be. We can prevent ourselves from walking down the same dark roads as our forefathers, while building on all the progress they've made. This is a moment in history. A time where we face challenges both old and new, simple and complex. We have an opportunity to do what is hard, to fight for what's right, and to achieve great things. Now is the time for our ambition to match the moment, to reach out and take history by the hand to write a new chapter worthy of the shoulders we stand on. The only way to achieve this is through service, real service. Not a social media photo op, not self-gratification, but service. It doesn't have to be grand or global. I'm not asking everyone to open up a hospital or an orphanage. We just have to understand that working together towards something that is greater than ourselves is the only way that we can bring ourselves closer together. And this has to be a time where we are brutally honest with one another. No one is coming to save us. There are no political or social saviors that are going to descend from on high and rescue us from the issues we face. No one's going to fight our battles for us. We fooled ourselves into thinking there's some bygone age of American heroes where giants walked the earth and mere mortals wielded the power of the gods. The men and women who fought against the evils of slavery, defeated the Nazis, who fought for the vote for civil rights, gender equality, marriage equality, they were all regular, everyday people just like you and me. This is our age of heroes. time for each one to do their part to bend the moral arc of the universe towards justice. There will be challenges. Racism and bigotry are constantly repackaged and disguised to seem like legitimate and harmless arguments. Redlining, tough-on-crime legislation, entitlement reform, availability without accessibility. It can be hard to keep up. And while some will stand against us making waves, there are others who will say that we've made no meaningful progress at all. On that, I have to disagree. When I was a little boy, about 5 or 6, my mom started taking me out to lunch on Martin Luther King Day. It's a tradition we try and keep up to this day. Every January, we'd go into a restaurant or a diner and take a seat at the counter and order and eat our lunch. It wasn't until I became a man that the significance of this tradition really dawned on me, and it's one of the most moving things I've ever experienced. When our little ritual began, my mother was taking her child to do something that was totally illegal for her to do at that age. A simple action that could be met with violence or death where she came from. Here was a woman born into the fire of the Jim Crow 50s in Harlan County, Kentucky, marking the sweeping cadence of history with a simple gesture. Black and brown people find themselves caught between two sides of the same problem. On one side, we deal with bald-faced racism and the resistance to our inclusion. On the other, we deal with the fantasy that all the world's problems are the fault of a rich and powerful few, and that race is no longer a relevant factor in American life. We've got to strike a balance to be able to advocate for Black lives at all levels. And that commitment goes deeper than a t-shirt or a hashtag. Picking up and protecting and investing in the most vulnerable communities among us is actually making an investment in everyone in the middle as well. A more just and equitable society protects all people, not just those on the fringes. We have to be invested in the economics of prosperity, lifting folks out of poverty with secure jobs and a living wage. It's economic justice, it's police reform, it's justice in our healthcare systems, equitable school funding, and access to the same opportunities, not the same outcomes. A fair shot. Guys, our freedoms mean nothing if we don't exercise them. This means that in the end, there is no one coming to save us. Mere performative actions aren't enough. A statement's nice, but this work is down to you and me. To strategize, to advocate, to agitate, to use our time, talent, and treasure to make sure our voices are heard. Are you ready to take that on? Are you willing to work for it? When the song of our time is written, how do you want it to go? If you want to show the best of us, it's time to pick up our instruments and join the glorious symphony